Well, the former Premier of the Northwest Province, Supra Mahumapelo, joins us in studio now. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Mahumapelo.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm a bit confused, I must say, because aren't you one of the ANC members who historically have said that ANC members should not take their own party to court?
Well, of course, the tradition is that when we've got issues, you raise them internally, you exhaust all the internal remedies through the structures of the organization. But then we are in an instance here where it is now the National Executive Committee, which is the highest decision-making body, in between conferences that has arrived at a decision which we think is unfair, is not consistent with the spirit of the Constitution of the African National Congress, and that it was political machinations which were started before and after Nasrec.
So you believe you're a political target? There are ulterior motives in this decision to disband
Well, it was not a
secret.
Yes, it's not a secret. I mean, those who were lobbying for the dissolution of the PEC made it very clear towards Nasrec, including after the January 8 statement, and they continued to destabilize the structures of the ANC in the province. We tried to engage them. They didn't want to listen. We went and saw both the president together with the National Executive Committee officials. We raised the matter with them in February. They did nothing about it, and ultimately this group then mobilized some of their forces within the National Executive Committee. Then the NEC became just a rubber stamp of these machinations which started last year.
However, you were named as part of that provincial task team that was set up after the PEC was disbanded. I think many people were surprised by that because you were being blamed for some of the problems in the province. Why would the ANC target you by putting you on that committee to take the province to elections next year?
Well, I was never going to agree to serve in that particular structure, to serve with people who have shot people, who nearly killed other people, people who have disregarded, there's one member of the ANC who has been shot. The matter is in court now, so it's a bit sub judice, who was shot in a meeting in Mahikeng by some of these people who are in this PTT now. They have disregarded every rule that is there in the constitution of the ANC. They didn't want to respect the elected structures of the organization. Now, it will be against one's political conscience to then be part of this morass that was brought through a back door, not through democratic process of the ANC.
So it was a sham to you. And is this about your beef with Cyril Ramaphosa? You were always seen as vulnerable because you were a fierce supporter of former President Jacob Zuma. You were a supporter of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma going into December, and she was the loser.
Well, leadership, when we go to the conference, yes, we campaign. After conference, we must all rally behind the elected leadership, make sure that we implement the program of unity and renewal. The leadership has to be judged on the decisions they take currently and how they implement the program, not on who supported who towards the conference. So we are of the view that the NEC is acting inconsistently. I'll give you an example. In the Eastern Cape, there was a report by Debele commissioned by the National Executive Committee. It made this very strong recommendation that there was no conference there and that the PEC must be dissolved. The NEC refused to implement its own decision. In our case, no committee set up, nothing, rush decision. These matters were discussed in the corridors and so on. And you arrive at this decision, and the PEC is only left with about 4.5 months. What is the hurry?
My question again, do you believe you're being targeted by Cyril Ramaphosa?
No, I don't think one is being targeted by the president, but I think there is a group within the National Executive Committee. It's working with about 34 people in the province, which have worked to destabilize the province. In the near future, we'll reveal where the monies were coming from and the quantums of those particular monies and who was involved. And we can't allow, in our clear consciences, the African National Congress to be run in that manner. And as I said, we try to bring this to the leadership, and the leadership just brushed aside those issues.
It does seem like you don't mind affecting the presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa. You saying that if Northwest provinces were dysfunctional, then the national conference in December wasn't correct. That would bring that whole leadership structure elected into doubt.
We did not raise that matter. It is the lawyers of our movement who are mandated to represent our movement who are raising that particular matter. So they are
your
themselves.
lawyers doing things without you, because that's not great
No,
either.
that's their lawyers. It's not our lawyers. It's the lawyers of the ANC who are saying some branches from the Northwest were dysfunctional, and this was brought to their attention.
But you're saying then the December conference couldn't be valid, right, if the Northwest provinces were dysfunctional?
We are making our movement aware that if that is the line of argument you are going to take, we'll then have to bring to the attention of the court that these branches were audited, they passed the audit, they were accredited to participate in the conference, and they participated in the conference. Therefore, it means the movement itself is questioning its own outcomes of the conference indirectly. Unfortunately, it's the organization that is bringing that matter forward. It's not us.
Mr. Mahumapelo, do you believe you are a fit leader to be a provincial ANC leader?
It's up to the branches of the ANC to come to such a decision. As an individual, you don't make that decision.
But you're fighting for this.
If there is a conference, yes, we need to make sure that we adhere to the dictates of the Constitution. It will be up to the branches of the ANC. If they don't think one is fit to lead the organization, it's not for the first time that one wouldn't have been elected. It's not a train smash, but we must stick to the principles of the ANC.
I ask this because while I can't comment on the ANC dysfunctionality in the province, it does seem to many that you left a whole entire province in a state of dysfunction. Claims of corruption involving health, claims of other corruption involving IT. We've heard from health experts saying it's a mess.
Well, I just hope one day one can have time to clarify some of these things. When I was still the premier and I approached the national leadership to remove the MEC for health because that department was malfunctioning, it is the national leadership itself that stopped us from taking that particular decision. And it's also surprising that one had, through the ANC, raised this particular issues of corruption. It was for the first time that we tabled in the legislature forensic investigation reports, 29 of them, for the first time after 24 years. And now people turn around and say you are not dealing with corruption. And we say to them, bring the remaining aspects of corruption on board so that we can deal with them, because nobody must be above the law. Until today, it's brought allegations which are wild, which are made, no substance at all, and you can't run democracy like that.
Your officers were raided. You're right, there has not been a successful prosecution, but what would you say to those who say, well, that's because of state capture, because of the state of law enforcement? Technically, there's just so much smoke that you must be corrupt.
I wrote to when I was still the premier, I wrote to the Minister of Police to clarify and correct what they communicated to the public. The raid by the Hawks were not in the office of the premier, my private office. The raid by the Hawks were in the office of the Director General who is leading the administration. But when the Hawks decided to hold a press conference and communicate a wrong, misleading message to the public, that matter has to be attended to. I'm still waiting for a response from the minister because it's not true. They were misleading the people of South Africa.
You're saying you're a political target, but we saw the province up in arms. People who were feeling the pain of a lack of service delivery were blaming you. There was even a hashtag, Supra must go.
Well, it's not true. I mean, we are going to show the facts of a certain group which had a budget of not less than 12 million. And that group was working with people who were circulating drugs in Mahikeng. They were working with some of the people who are former convicts and so on. And people were paid to destabilize and block the roads. You never had any community organization until today, unless you give me one community organization that said they were unhappy. And I'm not saying...
So you're saying this was just individuals, the media was getting it wrong?
No, it was coming from the ANC. It's not a community. It's a certain group within the ANC.
But we spoke to members of the community, I remember, who blamed you.
Yes, what I'm saying is that there are some members of the ANC who made sure that they propagate this so that it looks like the communities were not happy. Those people who were being interviewed by the media were paid to say some of those things. And I'm not saying there are no challenges of service delivery in the province. There are many challenges of service delivery in the province, but also we have done a lot in the last 2.5 years when one was in that particular position. And there's no way in which in 3 years we would have resolved all the problems that are there. We were always on the ground with the Stukutana program.
The Mail and Guardian today saying that you were behind the province's many municipalities illegally investing in VBS Bank. They've put a figure, 314 million rand. In
the Stukutana program that we adopted of outreach to the communities, we invited FNB, ABSA, VBS, Standard Bank to come and sell themselves, market themselves, and tell communities on how they can help them. They did very well, all of them, those particular banks, they came. The private sector also, we have a responsibility to have a good relationship with them. We encourage all of them, including VBS, that if they want to come and make presentations to government, you follow the cluster committees, and all of them did that. We never instructed any municipality. We don't have that particular power for them to use a particular bank. It's wrong for people to say so.
However, it was illegal for any of the municipalities to invest with a mutual bank. Did you not know that?
That is why those who did not follow the law, the prescripts of the law, will have to face the might of the law. No one is above the law.
And it doesn't help if you call the conference as claimed, you're putting your political clout behind them?
No. What was being done there was to make sure that as part of Black economic empowerment policy, we promote this emerging bank. We support it, but you must follow the law. You can't say
but
no.
Why promote it if it's illegal to invest with VBS
No,
Bank?
there are other aspects that you can do with that particular bank. That is why we're sending it to the communities without necessarily having to use municipal money. And we never instructed any municipality to not follow the law when they were doing those particular things.
Overall, and let's end with this, it sounds like a lot of money changed hands. Officials were involved in getting that money channeled into VBS Bank. Did you gain financially at all?
None at all. Zero, my sister. I'm waiting for anyone to bring that evidence to me.
All right. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much.
That was the former Premier of the North West Province, Supra Mahumapelo.